Hey, what's up, guys? This is Chris. Welcome back to Don't Forget to Tap. So, I wanted to talk about probably the most important part. It's something that every single person who has ever started anything has had to go through. Especially for people that have started martial arts or started jujitsu, pretty much anything is not being afraid to start. I think that a lot of times people want to try things, they want to put themselves out there in life. And I think that your head kind of gets the best of you, or we get in our heads about things. And it's an incredibly terrifying thing to do. And being able to put yourself out there and being able to walk through the door and swallow your nerves is it's really difficult because we run these scenarios in our heads all the time of what it's going to be, what it's supposed to be like, and all this stuff. So, kind of take you back a little bit. I knew ever since I kind of made a big adjustment in life, new location, stuff like that. I knew that I wanted to kind of be proactive. I wanted to try my hand at new things. I'd always had a passion for martial arts. I'd dabbled in a couple of them growing up and everything, but I'd never tried jujitsu before. And to be, completely honest, I didn't have a whole lot of interest when I was younger. And it wasn't until I started kind of seeing a more practical side of it, just seeing people, some of the stuff they could do, and everyone kept talking about what a cool culture it was, and I was like, wow, that's really more than I thought it was. So I kind of reached out to a friend of mine, and I was like, hey, if you get some time, because I knew this person did jujitsu, and I was like, hey, if you get some time, whenever you kind of get settled at your new location, I would love to kind of tag along and see what it's all about. And of course, they were like, "Yeah, that's fine, everything." But then I guess I just kind of realized very quickly that I was getting in my head about stuff, and I knew that I wanted to beat that. So I was like, "Okay, so I'm just gonna look it up. I'm gonna do what most people do when anything happens, and you Google it, right?" I Googled, jujitsu, and sure enough, a gym popped up 3 miles down the road, which is super crazy for me because everything I've ever tried to do in my life, I've always had to drive really, really far to get there, and it's just not been convenient, and this is right down the road, and I had no idea, so not much of an excuse not to go right off the bat. And so I Google it and come up with the place, and, you start looking up the class times and everything. I was like, "Okay, I know what time to be there. I know where it's at." And so I shot an email over and, just let them know that I was interested. They responded back super quick and very welcoming, and, just, hey, come check it out. This is, where it's at. This is what time it is. Bring some water, bring some, comfortable clothes, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was really nervous. I knew, anytime you go in there, to any new gym, maybe it's your first time going back to the gym or anything, there's always going to be a little bit of the intimidation factor of people judging you walking in there because you know that a lot of people probably know each other. There's, built relationships and everything, or starting a project or really anything. There's just always an intimidation factor about it. So I set a date. I was like, okay, the next one's coming up on that following Monday. It's at 7 o'clock. I'm gonna be there. So I prepped the bag and everything, and I'm not gonna lie, there was about 4 days between the time that I set up the time to go and then the actual class. And I think I came up with probably 1 to 2 million reasons why I wasn't gonna go to that class. I was worried that everyone was like I was walking into the Avengers compound and all these guys were just gonna be superheroes and they were gonna be judging, and I just was not gonna be on their level whatsoever. And so I was really kind of, my nerves were getting the best of me. I was talking myself out of it. And I walked, I decided, so I got home from work that day, and I went ahead and put a little bag together. And I was like, just in case I change my mind, I'm not going to go, but in case I change my mind. And, I grabbed a Gatorade, and next thing I know, I'm putting my shoes on. I was like, I'm still not going to go. I was like, I'm just kind of, going through the motions. And next thing I know, I'm in the car and I'm driving there. And I pulled up and I was sitting in the parking lot for a while and just kind of filling it out, scoping out the area and everything, watching some of the people go in. And the other thing too, and this is another thing that I was afraid of, and this is going to be an episode later down the road, was that it was going to be all younger kids. And I saw on the schedule very clearly that there's classes that are set up for, more youth. But I still kind of figured that I would be one of the older guys in there. And one of the first individuals that I saw in there or walk into the facility was probably looked like he was about my age. And I was like, okay, that's already kind of cool that there's somebody that looks, but they've probably been doing this for years and years and years. And so I get out of the car, I still complete nerves going on in my stomach and everything. I walk up there and there was a couple in there and they were kind of signing what I assumed was waivers or something. And I walk up and the first thing I notice is there's a smaller female in there, and she was like, "Hey, is this your first class and everything?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay, cool." So she was kind of the introduced herself, and she was phenomenal. She's my professor, and she kind of explained everything and some of the quick rundowns on terminology and some of the basic rules and everything. She let us know, you wear flip flops. She sized us up for some training gis, kind of the rules going in. You wear, your flip flops when you're not on the mat. You take them off when you're off them or when you're on the mat. You bow in, just some of the stuff, the terminologies, professor, warm ups, coaches, stuff like that. And I thought that was really incredible, just how welcoming it was right off the bat. And then I met, I was in there with another couple. This is their first lesson, and they were really. I could tell they were a little bit nervous about it too, but we all went in open minded, and then people started kind of showing up and everything, and it was just really cool. I mean, everybody was immediately welcoming. Everyone was just kind of asking like, "Oh, this is your first class," and everything, and it was really, really comforting as soon as you start meeting people and you realize very quickly that the scenarios in your head aren't going to play out how you kind of imagined they were going to go or any of that. So that was really cool. And then, what I was really, really impressed with, apart from everything thus far, from the moment I literally stepped out of the car, was the coach. So, he has us line up and kind of starts going real slow. And so it was quick enough that if you'd been coming for a while, then, you were still learning something new, but it was slow enough that if it was your first time, it was very easy for me to catch on. And I am not the person that catches on to things the first time that you explain them to me. Typically, I need it like 3 to 4 times for it to make any kind of sense. And so that was really, really cool. And so we start learning things, and I was like, okay, I was like, this is, I'm catching on pretty quick. That's awesome. And yeah, so it was this really powerful experience. And that was, the first class. I don't think that a gym has any, they're not required to give you a free class, but this is like my free check it out class, if you will. And so excuse me. As soon as we were done, I knew, excuse me, I knew that this is something that I loved. I loved the community. I loved the culture. I loved everything about it. I thought it was really great. And so I signed up. I did, I bought the gi, my first gi and everything. And your gi is your uniform. And, then you start looking at the schedule, and there's some classes that you wear the gi, and there's a few classes that you don't. And they explain the ranking system to you. And it was just really straightforward, and I really appreciated that. I loved the environment, the culture, how welcoming everybody was. I learned a lot from the other students too. That was really cool. They were really, and I've learned this is a community thing. Excuse me. Is that the community is really willing to slow down and teach you that if you want to go slow, go slow. If you want to sit there and just beat the living crap out of each other, you can do that too. So just talk to your partner and let them know. again, disclaimer in this. Of course, I'm coughing during my first or second long episode. But something that I learned in it, like I said, full disclaimer is I am super new to this. Only 2 months in. There's people that have been doing this their whole entire lives. But I'm giving you a point of view as somebody new into it, and I think that's kind of the cool thing is when you're new to something, you're experiencing everything. Everything's new to you, so it's easy to talk about. It's easy to kind of dig into. It's whenever you're kind of used to things that it becomes like less interesting or it's harder to expand on. And so, like, if you ask me about like other aspects of like work or anything like that, then yeah, it's boring. It's the same thing over and over. But it's really fun to talk about a new concept and just how it's really kind of building you up and everything. So that's exciting. So, it's I'm not a pro at this by any means. I'm never gonna come to be, and in all honesty, it's something that I think you're just constantly working at. But one thing I was absolutely sure of is that I love the culture, I love the environment, I love the people, and so that kind of brings me, and it's become this huge staple in my life, and that brings me to the full circle of it all, and the title of the episode, "Don't Be Afraid to Start." And I think that so many times in our lives, we hold ourselves back. We're unwilling to swallow our fear, our anxiety to start. The greatest things that can ever happen to you typically start with one simple step in that right direction. Be willing to be uncomfortable. Be willing to make small sacrifices, big sacrifices, whatever it is that you have to do on your individual journey for you to be able to accomplish the things that are going to make you the person that you want to be. Maybe you've been putting off a project. Maybe you're working on a relationship. Maybe you're trying to take care of your personal journey, or maybe you're starting, jujitsu. It doesn't really matter. The point is, don't be afraid to start the things that you want to do in life. I think there's a lot of people out there that they have amazing goals and huge aspirations to be really successful in life. But if you don't start, if you're not willing to walk through the door, if you're not willing to be nervous, be uncomfortable, then the reality is that your growth, it stops at that exact moment. And you can compensate in any other way that you possibly can. You can go do something else to substitute that, but it will never be that thing that you said you wanted to do. And so, the best advice, this is the absolute beginning of it all. And I think that every single person that has ever started jujitsu, has ever started any project, any relationship, anything in their life, is the ability to overcome their fear and start the thing that they said they wanted to do. And I think that's incredibly powerful, and it may be uncomfortable at first. It might be something that it's a growth process, meaning that you're going to struggle with it, and it's going to require a lot of repetition. It's going to require a lot of work. It's going to make you uncomfortable on a regular basis, and it's sometimes just going to frankly beat you up. But that doesn't make it a bad thing. If it's something that makes you better, then that is ultimately contributing to the part of you or pieces of you that you said you wanted to be. So never be afraid to start. And for me, one of the best things I've done in a long, long time has been walking through the doors of that gym and beginning my journey in jujitsu, and being able to train and progress through that. And it may not always be jujitsu. There's going to be days where, the next thing I need to start is this. For me, going back to college was really, really tough as well. And I threw myself every kind of excuse that I didn't need it. I was comfortable, whatever. But at the end, I was basically, I was a little bit later whenever I kind of jumped back into the game and everything. That was really intimidating because most people are completing their degrees when they're like 22, moving on, and most people my age are even sometimes working on PhDs. And here I am doing something that most 22 to 24-year-olds are doing, and and that kind of was like a swallow your pride kind of moment. but it doesn't matter. It's never too late to do anything. So, I did all the research, I did what I had to do, and I just began. And now it's just as much of a natural part of my life. It's discussion posts on Thursdays and papers and tests and quizzes and final exams on Sundays, right? I try to spread it out more than that, but sometimes you gotta break it up a little bit. So the best thing you can do is begin your journey. Don't be afraid of where you are. Don't be afraid of if you're not qualified to do it, if you're overly qualified to do it, if you think that you don't add up, or maybe you add up too much. It doesn't really matter. It's all about beginning and getting out of your head about it and getting out of your way. It is never too late to start something. It is never ever a bad idea. And as somebody once told me, when it comes to jujitsus, especially, is that you'll never regret going to class. You'll never regret the lessons, and that's life, right? Is everything that we do? It has a beginning part, and it has a story and a rhythm to it, and so you just have to be willing to let your journey and your rhythm take place, and it's all going to work out from there. And next thing you know, you're going to be progressing before you even know it, and it's almost going to feel like it's weird if you don't do it. And that's the best part for me, is that it has really become something that if I don't go to class, if I don't go to training, um, I don't feel right. It's like drinking coffee in the morning, or basically breathing, is that it's very, very important to me that I do that. And I feel an obligation and a sense of duty to be there, and a sense of community, because A, it's good for me, and B, it's fulfilling the community and the mentality, the tribe mentality of being a part of that group and that culture, is that I said I was going to do something, I'm going to do it. And so it all starts by walking through the door. So whatever it is you're doing in your life, whatever it is you're putting off, or you said you wanted to do, don't be afraid to do it. Get out of your head, get out of your way, do that thing. And I promise you, it may be uncomfortable. You may not see the benefits of it for years and years to come. I'm a white belt, no stripes, literally the most beginner of beginners, right? But I know that every single black belt who has ever began anything has been in my exact shoes walking through the door for the first time. And 2 months in, they probably felt very similar to how I feel about just the journey ahead. But it's exciting. It's incredibly inspirational to see those people do it and hear their stories. And I can't wait to share some of theirs with you guys as well. So just know that anything that you want to accomplish, anything that you want to do, the people who have maybe done that before you were in your exact shoes at some point. So don't let that be the thing that stops you, because they got to where they are because they had the courage to stand up and do it in the first place. And that's what I'm going to tell you to do, is don't be afraid to step up, step on the mat, walk through the door, put on a gi, and get rolling. So with that being said, don't be afraid to start, and don't be afraid to tap. I'll talk to you guys next time.